Hey Joe, this is Mike. Can you hear me over?
Hey Mike, this is Joe. I've got Lima Charlie. How you me? Over.
I've got Lima Charlie. Break. You hear about this Joe with the hot mic? Over.
No dude, I've got the Joe on. Let me pour a cup and give you the get some. Over.
Roger that. Stand by to get some.
So we're together for the first time since the first episode, so that's kind of a big deal.
Live from the situation room.
Yeah. Glad we could be together. See how often this can happen. But yeah, man, we had a couple of conversations going on recently. A couple of good topics. Want to dive into one of those first ones you had in mind?
Yeah. Boots, which is funny because we went to the BX. We went to Post Exchange, Base Exchange, and we're looking for boots. They're like, oh, what kind of boots you want? I go, I got these Nikes that I like, not sponsored, but and and so I go, yeah, I wear these. I can't remember what the name of this is. The Nike. I've gone through a few phases. Like the first set was like legit, like just brown sports shoes that had high top, black leather mahogany boots or whatever. But those quickly went up with the the uniform. There was like this great uniform revolt of like 2014 where it was doing down this fucking weird. Oh, you can't have. It has to be leather or cow leather. And there's already like regulations that don't have any about American made. Like, yeah, I got issue boots, and the PX can only sell American made, bear name or whatever. But it was like it has to be cattle leather hide suede, because there was companies that would make like pig skin, and I'm like, bro, we are heathing. They're like supposed to be 11 millimeter, like out in the sun for 11 days. Like, it was big. So soldiers had brand new kicks on, and you'd be like, boom, you're fucking, get out, go home, change into issue boots, go to the PX, like, and it was like Under Armour was off the table, Nike was off the table.
Well, and I remember that time frame.
Yeah.
Talking about boots way back then. And yeah, you're right. All these new vendors had to come along.
Yeah.
These like sneaker style.
Right. Yeah.
And so in the Air Force, 'cause I remember talking to you, being in the Army,
Right.
and you're like, yeah, no, if I touch those for the 10, I get chastised.
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
I'm out of here.
Yeah.
But the Air Force had the opposite approach. It was like anything goes.
Comfort over everything.
Yeah, well, absolutely. Right?
Yeah.
Because it's not specifically outlawed in the AFI,
Right.
the course instruction,
Yeah.
the regulations.
You're saying
It's allowed.
Yeah.
So like
It's not an
exactly. They don't say specifically you can't do X, Y, Z.
Yeah.
So these boots, just like with toe shoes.
Yeah.
Remember those things, man?
Yeah.
Like those kind of like
Yeah.
for sure. The big deal with those, however, was that for the Air Force PT uniform, socks were mandatory. And so those shoes we're supposed to wear socks because you mess up the toes. So people were doing creative things to try to get around that.
Yeah.
And I seem to recall people like trying to cut socks so that it's like, you know what I mean?
Basically, they just cut off the tip, like the top 3 inches of the toe. That way, the ankle party, because that's almost all the way those arms work too. Is like you want them to be tighter, so you can move your fingers like a monkey, like toes, and even in so hang on the branches, do pull-ups, and so guys would like cut off the tip, shove their foot, half into it, so that was like, from the layman, from your average sergeant major, like you wouldn't get hemmed up and be like, check socks look good. Those are also the archaic days of White Sox only in the Army too, which was even wilder to think about. But the Vibram 5-finger shoes went off, and then this boot and rebellion was like,
basically, like you said, the first generations of those,
they were
basically sneakers. They were sneakers.
Oh yes, and then it's funny because like comfy, cozy, compact, lightweight, and like they'd be great for garrison. They would be awesome for ruck marching on roads because you're like, I am like
marathon.
I am like marathon. I am marathon.
Marathon boots, right?
So like some of the hover boots from Aqua Time never made it, and also sponsored by Marsh. And so it was like awesome, so like the Nikes were cool, but they had like an awkward, like off brown, tip and feel.
Yeah.
So like, boom, has to be all solid. One color cannot extend up to 1 inch past the fucking marching surface. It was like great.
Yeah.
And Rocky, there's these, they're called Garrison trainers for short, and they're like the Rocky brand and the Garrison model, whatever. And they had this fatty, like, bumper heel that was like, you would see on the corners and edges of like roller bags from airports, like that level of thickness of like the door ding prevention things in Korea where you're like, oh, I can slam this into a dump truck sign and it's not going to ding my door. It was like that hefty, and they, to this day, sort of still had that, but they were also like this odd color. There's like no brands can be visible, and then like some of these guys started getting creative, like Nike used to have a Nike swoosh on the like outside of the heel, and then that went like that. Something happened and like got a little more lax. I think it was around the transition to the Coyote Brown boots for the OCPs, and so like Nike would do this like white imprint stamp that like once you wear them in a bit, you kind of can't tell they're there, but brand new pairs in the daylight under a microscope, you can kind of tell that it's there. But yeah, these companies had like come back and and you catch a new guy from whatever base and or he's on leave and he reports to you and you're like, who's this motherfucker in the goddamn Under Armours? And you're like, yo,
the individual over here.
yeah, exactly. Like, hey, high speed, you like fucking communism and like synthesized shit, right? And you're like, must be fucking nice to have comfortable shoes on. Oh yeah, you suffer like the rest of us. You fucking get in the back, no AC on. Like, don't let them be company. And it was just bananas. And I was like, and so the good news, bad news to those like Nikes and early version shoots was like they would die quickly in like Afghanistan, where you're like hiking up and down mountains and like shale rock, broken glass and opium plants or whatever, opium fields. And so they burn through quick from like an operational standpoint. And then they next thing you know, they're flat sole. And then once they go flat sole, the first muddy hill you try and navigate, you like just sliding down like it's a TV show, not a TV show. And so the boots are like a whole thing. It's like, it's like, hey, what is it? We're calling from the airstrip. That's the only flying place we can get. And so it was like we have to buy more, and they're not cheap too. Like $160 shipping price, much less if you get buying from the shipping.
I don't know anybody that's able to like, because even with like running shoes, like you're supposed to like swap out every so
more frequently than your house air filter.
Yeah. And so like with the boots though, I feel like basically one type of person.
Mm-hmm.
And that type of person like has a pair of boots for at least a year.
Yeah.
And like you have them for at least a year.
Yeah.
Minimum.
Right.
Minimum. No one's swapping out earlier than a year.
Right.
If you are, put in the comments. You're a unicorn. You don't exist. You're a leprechaun even. You don't exist.
Yeah.
Prove us wrong. So, yeah, because they're so expensive. It's like even running shoes, you're paying good 150, 200 plus bucks. And so for boots, it's the same. 150 for cheap end. 200 usually. Yeah. Even more for higher end. And it's like, it's just so weird because you're on your feet every day. Oh. Yeah. And like, especially for the military, you're expected to be up and doing stuff. Yeah. Right? Like even the cyber weenies, like, we're out, you go out there, you get to walk to and from your tent.
Walk faders in.
Yeah, exactly.
Walk faders in White Monster.
Yeah, exactly. You're not getting the colored Amazon brands.
Yeah.
Even for the RPA pilots, you gotta walk back to those comics, tier boxes. So it's like, it's just so weird. Mm-hmm. It would almost be as if the military was like, hey, for your firearm, here's a like bishop brace. It's plastic. Don't worry about it.
Right.
What? Like,
it's good for going to work.
Yeah, apparently, right. Apparently.
Yeah. And that's what gets me about, like, as we talk some of the acquisitions things, and it's like, oh, hey, the baseline model should be, like, pretty good. It's like with the baseline model boot, not the call of the manufacturers, like, and it goes probably back and forth and all around. Usually it's like Bates and Danner are the two, which is wild because they also have good upsale. They have good premium models. Like it's like, oh, the Army version of the M4 Colt is a piece of shit, but the upgrade sale of it, the civilian model of the Colt's phenomenal. And you're like, what the fuck? Like, so it's like, what the fuck? And so the baselines are like, they're thick as fuck. The soles are like an inch sole, and they're heavy, and like they're not comfy cozy
Well,
or
and I
cute.
think, and this
Not
is,
precies.
yeah,
Like,
yeah. I think this is a good example of that classic government procurement problem where the private industry has a product,
yeah,
but the government doesn't provide requirements that match that product, and they also don't allow. Well, and in this case, they do allow for individuals to purchase them on their own.
Yeah.
But and I guess I have seen units where they do buy like uniform items because there's some like loophole that they can use.
Yeah.
But it's like the baseline model of boots, for example, is based off of the government requirements, which are 9 times out of 10, arguably 10 times out of 10, are going to be hot garbage in terms of like actually getting something that is what you mean it to be.
Yeah.
And so the fact that like the sole or whatever is too thick or whatever is too heavy, it's like because that's not the way they wrote it.
Yeah.
And then the same company is like, hey, no, look, like we do boots though,
Right.
so like let us do boots. And they have their higher end models which are lighter, comfortable, more whatever, and they cost $50 more, $100 more, because they know the government's going to buy those baseline models at $150 a pop to provide to basic trainees. But then everyone out there, once they finish or once they are able to, are going to purchase the higher end boots because they're sick and tired of that lower end model, baseline model.
Yeah. It's also just like going this rabbit hole. I mean, it's wild and especially the Army, because we just have a lot of kit that we use in and out at various types that, like, it's wild what we do and don't allow the use of commercial product. Yeah, because it's a commercial product, right? It wasn't an issue.
No,
like,
exactly.
It's a like issue to them, right? It's like, it'd be like if a pilot was like, this F-35 issue balls, dude, some balls. And you're like, I'm gonna go buy my F-35 and I'm gonna fly it. I'm gonna leave this 35 when you issue me.
Well, yeah, I was just thinking about this just a moment ago as we got into this topic. So like for firearms, right? Because you mentioned like going to the desert with boots, boots, really sneaker style. So, for example, though, like on your personal kit that you're expected to take into battle outside the wire, how much of that can be personally procured lethal items? So, like, if you have a 45 at home, if you have a personal 45, you have a personal M9, if you have a personal M4, like what are you like? I guess legally able to carry into battle? Like iron scope, like what do you, or is it like I can swap out my buttstock, but I can't swap out my whatever.
Yeah, until like your average Joe, which is like types of units I've been in, it's like almost nothing. And the most lethal, if only lethal item you would be allowed to is like a knife. Because that's the other like funny thing is nobody issues, much less sees or touches bayonets. Like, I don't know if we've talked about this before in the pod, but it's one of these things where like every regular Army unit that has bayonets, which is any unit that has M4, that has M4s, has them locked up in a tough box in the arms room, and they're sealed with a little seal. And you only ever see those if you follow property accountability, which most don't for this item, and you seal it, and then when you rip out with a commander and you're like doing all your inventories of this like 56 pages of 1,000 pieces of equipment for $10 million, and you go, hey, the old guy, the new guy, you're like, hey man, we're gonna go do bayonets, and they're like, this box is locked with a seal on it, here's a seal number, it matches my sticky note I have when I took over 15 months ago. I'm cool with signing that over if you are. And you're like, well, did you count them when you took over? You go, no, man, I fucking took the guy's word for it.
You go, yeah.
They're all there. Why wouldn't, we don't use them, so where would they go?
Sort of this game box. So like they're both accounted for, and accounted for 15 times before you open the box.
There's just 150 or zero, and it will never be if you open it. So it's like, so when I took over my company, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna crack these open. My supply guy goes, you're like, sir, are you? I was like, I'm positive. He's like, because we don't hire. Yeah, we do. And he was like, okay, so we cut it open. And then I was like, you know what? We're not going to seal these while I'm commander. So the whole problem with those is that in the arms room, you got to do what's called a barrel count every time you open and close. Open the arms room to go close it that day.
Yeah.
And you're supposed to do it by serial number. But most units do it by buttstock number, which is an additional number we just paint on the buttstock, so you can quickly reference. Because the serial numbers are all like fuck you long,
Sure.
out in the box. They're like Whiskey Zulu 1, 2 Zulu.
So the buck number is like a made up.
Yeah, it's like Alpha 1, Alpha 2's made up TRG. Yeah, it's made up TRG.
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, this is 1, and it starts always with some, like, this is 1-0, that's the first platoon, first squad, and then, first platoon, second squad will be like,
but it could also
2,
be like 1 through 100.
Yeah, it could be like 1
whatever they want it to be.
Sure, yeah.
Made up number.
Made up.
Okay.
FDA something like that.
Yeah.
And so, so you do a barrel count, and you go by stock ones, and it could be as simple as like, you just need to get in the arms room to like get one pair of MVGs.
Sure.
You're supposed to go through everything.
Yeah.
All your MVGs, all your machine guns, all your rifles, all your pistol. So like, that would be another item you'd have to barrel count in the arms room. Would be like, bayonet, 1 thorough hack 150. 1 bayonet, 2 bayonet, 3 bayonet. Yeah, like,
but there's no barrel.
No, yeah, barrel count's the biggest one. Yeah.
Okay.
Because people only think barrels. That's why
they only fucking
they don't count. Yeah. So like barrels in black boxes, boxes full of barrels. Yeah. So like alliteration week. So that's what the craziest part is like people keep their bayonets locked because you don't use them because they're also like World War II version bayonets. They're like 9.5 inches blade, fucking 3 or 4 inch handle. So it's like a foot long Subway special at lunch, and you're like, yo, this shit's a mini sword. They are sharp as fuck because they're like real American Detroit steel, like throwing the fucking men with hands and callous built them. Yeah. And you're like, yo, these have like, there's no way these are sharp. And the guy like, fucking, and you're like, it's so fucking, I'm gonna put and you like lick the blood off your finger, and you're like, I'm gonna put it in. Every time. Medic, unrelated, I'm assuming. Yeah. And so it's like the sharpest spot because again, so their mil specs are like, yo, have to be battle hardened, like, punch through fucking armor and like kill somebody and like, sever their armor. Mm-hmm. And so, I don't know how we got there, but barrel counts, weapons, is holy leaf valley. So like, anything, like, you can bring a knife, a personal knife, and every fun private, every other private unit will go to the DX their first week after their first field exercise, where they realize they don't have something to open their MREs with, they'll go to the DX and buy a fucking saw, pup seal, fucking Navy SEAL looking, put in their mouth, take pictures on Instagram, their Tinder profile, and like they'll buy it and they'll keep it like fucking kid, and they'll do a fucking killer, and this shit's unsnapping and it's falling out.
Yeah.
And you're like, you're gonna get a fucking knife in your foot.
Yeah.
Like, just trying to get your chocolate pudding packet open.
Yeah.
And so a knife would be like the only thing you could reasonably bring because the optics are all like the ITAR restriction typey items that you can barely get in the civilian market. Like lasers you can probably get, but
so there's nothing better.
No.
From that perspective.
No. Yeah, like sure there's better weapons, but and like that's to their credit, the acquisition corps and the army have like bought pretty good weapon systems. Like the M4, the Colt makes the M4 in like FN America. It's always funny too because like you'll have a M4 and they're not be made by the same manufacturer. They will not be made by the same manufacturer from unit or even entry unit because now there's enough of defense industrial base to produce. Like Colt was the biggest in the inventor. It was like for real OG inventor like 15 and 4. Colt is one of the top notch ones. I think America's fine. And so they're good. Like the pistols are pretty good now that we got rid of the which was mostly just old to its own credit. It's like a pretty good. The brand M9 pistol was like a pretty good pistol. It was really old, so it was like.
Now we had Berettas in the Air Force.
Yeah.
So was it Beretta?
Well, yeah, the Beretta pistol. And so those now have all, I think, D wide.
I think so.
Been replaced by a SIG Sauer, and like. It's basically a P320, bonus clamps, M17 and 19.
Did they go to the 40?
No, they're still in 9mm. It's NATO standard. Okay. And so they're in the 9mm. Special operations units will have a 45, 40, whatever they want, but they bought it themselves with a fucking black credit card. And so, like, it's just puts the fire to like, it sucks the soul out. It's got the soul sucking option. And,
well, and for the listeners that may not be aware, like, the whole reason the military went to the 45 as a standard was because they discovered, I think during, the 1911 is the 45. I think maybe during the Boer War, the British were engaged in the first or second Boer War. I know I'm not pronouncing that right.
Yeah.
But they discovered that like their sidearms didn't have enough stopping power.
Oh, interesting.
And so in 1911, during that time between like 1900 and like 1920, that's kind of like the firearm boom.
Yeah.
Because everybody, like, hey man, you don't need a better mousetrap, you need a better firearm. Because everyone's trying to buy guns right now. Buy better guns.
Yeah.
And so, the 45 was determined to have more stopping power.
Yeah.
Because with the 9 mil, you had to fire like 2 or 3 times to stop somebody. Yeah. And so now, this was back a number of years ago when the military went to the 9 mil as a standard. It's ironic, right? Because it's like, don't you, like, and it goes back to like knowing history. And it's like, well, yeah, sure, this, because it was a cost saving measure. And the 9 mil is obviously cheaper. But it's like, well, yeah, it's cheaper. But this is exactly what we're talking about. The cheapest, the best military, the cheapest price. Right. Yeah. Where it's like, well, what are we here to do? Yeah. Right. So.
Yeah. And so like the knife are like the only thing, and like optics and MVGs and lasers are all pretty good. And like the MVGs is one of those like you can't get on the civilian market the way we need them. You can buy night vision devices on the civilian market, but they're not the quite same. And
I'll cut this part out. But that's why I did it there. See how small balls. Well, excuse me. That's fair. We'll deal with it. So we'll go ahead and start.
yeah, it's like like the optics and stuff, which is funny because I bought a cog, which is a thing for personal team with the intent of bringing it to my next unit because it's also like one of those unless you're down a line unit, which I'm like a staff tracking, you barely get a weapon system and like you never get a good optic. If you're even lucky to get MVGs too, like which is also just wild to me that unfortunately and so like, and then, so those are like killing stuff, helping kill items. But that's what I was gonna mention with the PX was like, I'm like every leader in the army goes through this like pouching phase where your pouches aren't, your standard loadout pouches are issued aren't compatible with the duties you're charged with. And so like, then there's no leader setup, there's no leader rig that's issued. And like, there should be. So for all these acquisitions, you guys in PEO Soldier, I'm talking to you, and I know you're listening, you should comments about it. But like, the PEO Soldier needs to get on making a leader setup kit at Echelon. And so like, your squad leader has a little configuration where your squad leader needs, and we call them admin pouches or leader pouches, where it's like, you'll pull off like a magazine or two's worth of pouches to then put in a leader's pouch. And the leader pouch, like I said, gets kind of bigger as you get promoted. And like it starts off as a squad leader one where you'll like have just a little, maybe like 5-inch by 8-inch pouch that you'll put in whether it's a map and a protractor and or a roster of the guys in your squad and or a 9-line medevac card or the your call signs and signals and stuff. You'll put that in your little leader pouch and like battle drill thing, like capabilities, graphic training aids, like oh, this is what 155 can go to. This is what can go to. And you'll put that in your leader pouch. And so as you get promoted, you need to put more shit in there because like you're responsible for knowing more stuff off the tip of your fingers that is too much to memorize and changes too much to memorize. So it's gonna be like, how many guys and trucks and weapons do you have? And like, oh, Schmitty went down, then we got new guy face, and so we haven't figured out guy face's name yet enough, and he's not for the team, so we're gonna call him new guy face. But there's real legal names in my little leader book. It's like I got like a mega pouch that's probably like 10 inches wide by like 6 or 8 inches deep. That has like 2 slots on the inside and pen folder. And if anything, it's literally carry pens for leaders because you need to be able to write on maps and like write on cards. And so there's no issue pouch that carries pens unless you want to not carry ammo and then put the pens in your magazine pouch, which will fall out inevitably. Speaking of personal experience when you're crawling through the mud and shooting on porta potties, and more so on the porta potty space when you bend over And so I go right down the toilet because his face turned around. And so,
Oh, that you need to tell me all those Mexican great pens I sent you. There's some shit or something later.
yeah, that's later. And so, like, and so those, like, leaders pouches, I was going to say at the next year, I was like, I'll just tell Tom and Paul one day because that's another, like, there's not, you won't find squad leaders, platoon leaders, company commanders that don't have one. And it's a known thing, and they procure them themselves. And, like, you'll go procure yourself, you're putting your kit. So, like, that's just a non-lethal item that a lot of people buy and put on, along with, like, the knife to open your eyes, which is 99.9% of the time the knife is to fucking use. And,
Well, what do you use to cover the box?
yeah, so you usually just man down a list. So, like, you use a knife to cut the bands, because unless you figure out the trick where the bands that band the memory box, are like these baling twine flat, these are sharp on the sides, plastic band. And if you're smart, and maybe only every other one you can do this on, the bands overlap at a point for like an inch or two. And sometimes they're just barely offset. And so you peel it, and you can go like around and start unpeeling the thing. And you can try and smash the edge of the corners and like slide it off like a sock, but these doesn't go. And so you use a knife to cut that bands off, and then you just grab one of the flaps, but they're glued in its own defense military. They're glued with like the whole flap. This isn't like a bullshit envelope you buy now for like a 500 bucks or $1. The whole flap is glued, and so you gotta get one little corner and hope that your fingernails aren't too short or too long, and you get that corner with your nubs, and you get it enough to where you can get 4 fingers, and it's like, it'd be like trying to rip off a Velcro sheet that's like the length of your back. And you're like, fucking, and it's like, fuck, got it open. And 50% of the time, every time, you will flip it over on the upside down, and you know it's upside down because then when you go in, there's a cardboard flap on the inside. It's like a packing sheet to keep them compressed. You'll have to fucking jam your hand into the side to pull that thing out. And if you do it from the wrong side, you pull up, and it's just 2 flaps. Or you pull it on the wrong side, you'd be like, you pull it up, and the flaps are tucked underneath the bottom of the memory, so you're like, oh, you're like trying to pull a baby out. Yeah, it's not ready, it's not gone yet. And, so then you get your memory box that you've selectively chosen which one you want, and you fuck on everybody else in your unit, and you're like, you guys can have maple sausage, I want fucking pesto chicken. And you're like, you pull it out, and you put your knife out, and then you cut it up, and you put your knife out right back away. And so, like, that is the only lethal item that you bring. But, like, your non-lethal is like your pouches on your kit, or something. And the Army's also gone through this ups and downs of, like, people, it's still actually in this problem, this lack of discipline, which is like a barracks issue, where guys will buy personal plate carriers and then put their issued stuff on it, and or buy more pouches and just put it on it. Because the issued vests are just the IOTVs that grow. It's like improvised outer tactical vest or something. Outside wear, outside play, outside voice, tactical vest. And it's like big, it's bulky, it's better than what we had was the IBA, which was the interceptor body armor, which was like a step laterally to the flak vest. And so people buy plate carriers and they put all this stuff in it. But you can tell, and you can tell by the shoulder straps right away whether it's issued or not. Even if you're like a neat, cool guy-ish unit, like an 82nd, you can tell those guys if it was issued or not. So they'll be like, oh, hey, you can't wear that, it's not issued, because it's like, there's no real reason other than it just wasn't issued. And every sergeant major will hem you up, and they're like, oh, well, when I put the plates, like I took the Army plates, that my armor part, and I put it in here, and they're like, no, that's not, it's a liability, you gotta fucking wear your issued.
No, is that in the regulation? But you know that your unissued items are unauthorized.
It's fine. No, I know.
Well, no, you're talking about the 2 gallon of 2 quart.
Right.
It's like, well, that's not issued either. So
Yeah.
what the fuck are you doing?
Yeah, exactly. No.
What are you doing?
Yeah, 2 quart canteen for those of you who've been like Ranger school, air assault after school. You gotta bring a 2 quart with cover, and fucking tie it to your rucksack.
And then go back to one of our previous podcasts with our friend Joe. Like, because we're talking about mission command. Now, on the one hand, the Army wants every soldier to think for themselves and be mission command.
Right.
You know, in the lack of with no communication, you execute with the intent from the commander. But on the other hand, like, they don't want them to wear full with their gear in the winter. and so it's like, on the one hand, they don't want you to wear unissued items because of the liability, but then on the other hand, they mandate that you bring unissued items to school and other things. So it's like there's just, it appears as though there are multiple contradictions at play here. It's just like, I don't know if anyone in the Army has identified this yet. I brought this up to Chain of Command. For all those lieutenants that play Nibs content, put your comments in the section below. Yeah. Let us know how it went. Yeah. Because it just seems kind of like, what are we doing?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And so it's like, so your plate carriers are always a spot of vulnerability for a leadership structure. You know, like, oh, hey, that's not issued. Change it out. And even if you make the ploy that you're like, oh, well, I took the plates though from my issued one, which are arguably the life-saving elements of this item. Is the fucking bullet-stopping apparatus that goes in there. You pull those and you put them in your, and well, that. In their defense, the TV has frags that are also in there. So, but so you wouldn't have frag pads in your personally procured plate carrier, your PPPC, and there's no frag pads in there. So if there's a hand grenade or a shot, you're not as protected. But the Army does issue plate carriers. It just don't give them everybody. And so it's like, so even that, you're like, bro, you fucking issue plate carriers. Our unit doesn't have them because mom pop plate carriers emporium doesn't make enough for every GI to get one. And so you're like, what the fuck is the difference between Schmitty's issued one from 82nd and my non-issued one from, tacticalmarkup.com?
Yeah.
And, we have same plates. So like I said, hence the life-saving element is the plate.
Well, and it's almost, because we were talking about this earlier, maybe like 12 or 18 months ago, with winter jackets, winter gear, and those cool, slick jackets that all the aviators have. What are those called again?
They're just like that. Yeah. It's not even called aviator fleece. It's probably not for people.
Yeah, exactly.
Not for the joke.
Yeah, for the joke. But those, anyways, those slick winter jackets, because, like, you can't buy those. Well, yeah, you can very rarely find those. And then when you do, they're like, they're priced out of the regional merchant's wardrobe.
Right.
And, but there are other items I thought we were talking about that were like not. They're only issued in certain locations, so they're not commercially available.
Yeah.
And so it's like, arguably, anything that is issuable,
right,
it should be made available to purchase by the Joes. Right. Anybody.
Yeah.
Like, because even if you're not issued, they're authorized. Yeah. If it's authorized, then anybody should be able to wear it. Right. So, like, what's going on? And also, like, when you go to some of those units, like the ones that get the cool mittens, so that, can survive in dark conditions.
Doing research also.
Yeah. They're like sheepskin and sheep wool, whatever. Right. But you only get them if you're stationed in, like, Juneau, Alaska, or like north of the Arctic Circle. Right.
Yep.
And so for the 5 people a year that like living out of those locations, they then have those issued items, and then whether on their personal time or on their duty time, you can wear that at the next location or the next time they go out hunting. Yeah. But it's like, okay, great, well, you can wear that at the next unit, but then like no one else at the next unit has it.
Right.
So if it's arguably if it's cold weather unit or somewhere where it snows, so it just begs the question, like, some things are available for purchase through official channels, some things are commercially available.
Yeah.
And it all begs the question, like, do we want, obviously, if we understand the fundamentals, and it's like, well, hey, this manufacturer has weak seams, that's why you don't want to buy it, so that's why it's not a good idea, that's why you should take it off.
Yeah, sure.
Versus, like, well, yeah, it's like the boots. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, well, maybe the first generation Nikes or sneakers, works all that rugged, so that's why you take it off. That's why it's authorized for wear. So
yeah, the kit thing, it gets me, like I said, because some of it sounds just so small and minuscule. But it adds up too, especially when you look at like Army tactical units, how many there are, and how many people go and buy those, and it is just bananas extra. Like, it's like one of those, again, yeah, if it's sold to the government people should be able to buy that individually for work, and just a matter of sending them an email from your official email or whatever, say, hey, I'm soldier.mil, and please, thanks. And like I said, like Massive is one of the companies that makes like the out the cold weather gear and like other unique uniformy items that are only issued in certain areas, but you can go to their website and click, yeah, I'm a government official, and then you're not getting any funds discount for sure, but it's like, oh yeah, like $650 for like this aviator fleece lined, sewn in, sleeves removable vesties, if you want to go, uh, American style was sleeves cut off, but you can buy it from them. It takes some wiki research. I was like, oh, hey, who? And I pulled out like a comment shirt that I bought from a pawn shop that I was like, oh, and how the ties on. Just turned it back because I got it there. Like, oh, Massive. Oh, neat. I was like, oh, okay, let me check and see if you can. And like, you go down this rabbit hole and you're like, oh, you can buy some of these issued items. It's not easy to do, and it's not everything. But yeah, like the admin pouches and stuff. Like I said, I don't even know what they're sold by the admin pouch. And some of the personally procured plate carriers come with it embedded. So I bought one from this company. It's an American made company, just got made in USA sticker Sona. First time I turned it into when I was in command. And it comes with an embedded zipper style, kangaroo pouch that you can put all your maps in, you can put all your pens in there, you can put your, chapstick in there that I put in there. To fold one and keep my lips moist and to clean my radio terminals, which is a fun activity.
Well, and another example are ribbons.
Yeah.
Oh, right. So, like, I cannot tell you the last time I bought an individual ribbon from the exchange to add to a ribbon rack.
Yeah. You also bought from the exchange.
I also bought from the exchange. I have been in a pinch before where I needed to like buy a whole new bag accidentally, like for reasons whatever. But then, like ultra thins, like not sponsored yet, but hopefully soon here.
Yeah.
On wood.
Yeah.
Like ultra thin, I could buy from ultra thins. Yeah. And so much so that they also had. So early on in my career, because I used ultra thins, they also had magnets, name plates, name tags for the super shoes. Yeah. So I got those for both my shirt as well as my jacket. Yeah. And I think they even had magnetic ribbons. Yeah. The only thing that wasn't magnetized on my shirt, my jacket, were the pins for the C badges. Yeah. And other like whatever badges. So, and then, I would even pay extra to get those magnetized every day, all day. Yeah. And then so much so that they line the whole thing in one goddamn thing on the back end. Yeah. So everything's magnetized in the back end. So it's like this technology exists.
There's demand.
Yeah, there's demand. Yeah. Because if that was available 15 years ago, I would never have that time to fucking fiddle with a ruler.
Right. Yeah.
I
never punch another hole through.
Well, that too. Yeah, exactly. But getting bent out of shape about some things sitting around or something, because what happens is the Joes across any service put their ribbons on with their devices on at one time. Yep. They hang that in the closet, and then the only time they remove those items is when they retire, and they're either putting their jacket in a shadow box or they're like turning it into a thrift store or something. Right. But, like people won't dry clean their items. Yeah. And for shirts, depending on how often you wash it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time. Time is money. But depending on how often they're in there, so the Air Force, the blues, color blues, depending if they're not in their open color blues wearing a jacket, but once a year, they're not washing that shirt. And so it's like, okay, well, what's the point here? Are we trying to be professional or trying to be quick and easy? Because again, the technology exists to make this whole device thing essential. So
I finally been a bullet and bought one of those pre-made bags in my ninth year in the Army. I think a company's called USA.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, no, I'm like, I'll get to push another hole for this accident and then get blood on my newly dry clean fucking outfit. And so I called them, and they had the ultra thin magnets. I was like, yeah, I'm about to get them. I was like, well, I know I'm going to get another one. So I was like,
well, because inevitably, because there's so many, God bless it, layers in that service jacket. Inevitably a frog pops,
Yep.
right? And then you end the night if it's a like formal ball or something, or you end the day if it's like a duty day with like a missing frog.
Yeah.
And it's like, you know what? Even in the day of like Amazon delivery and everything, like you can buy anything you want online. I bet you dollar. Prove me wrong in the comments. I bet you dollar you can't find the house. Like, they don't sell individual frog. You got to buy a box full of 10 pins that have frogs on them. You throw away the phone, frog, and you sell them at the door.
I literally had this conversation like 3 months ago. And they were like, you can't buy these? Yeah. I fucking believe it. Yeah. I don't even need to Google it. I believe it. Because why? Because why would you be able to why? And it's funny that you call them frogs because other guys from the Air Force say they call them frogs. We call them dammits. So it's like either dammit came out, dammit came out. They won't call them dammits. Like it's probably a doctoral term, but it is, I think, no doctoral term. That fucking thing.
That's like the end of a shoelace.
Yeah.
Like a plastic thing.
Yeah. And so, those, which is also funny because technology has not updated since we won the Second World War. Like, it's been the same dammit since Eisenhower.
Yeah.
Was George Washington had that fucking else. Yeah, exactly. Skin bow. Yeah. So, those have not updated and like, to their credit, the pins on those are sharp as fuck. Like, they won't go through in a millisecond.
Sharper than a bayonet.
Sharper than a bayonet. Like,
I put those on the end of the
yeah. Yeah, and so with those units, like, it's funny because they'll find the lame one in every set. So like, oh, if you've got 3 or 4 pins on the back, one of those is the lazy one. There's a little flappy somewhere, and it's just, and it'll even, some of them will even click, and it doesn't actually click. It just like, and it falls off and pokes you in your chest. But, those are absolutely, I literally was saying buying another set because I was like, just getting bored. There's the same reason why I was like, thinking about another set. Those are crazy. But yeah, the lethal items is another. I always tell that, like, which is also wild because it's tied-ish to like a story I had a mentor tell me where they were going to either like Operation Urgent Fury or it was either like Grenada or Panama, and I and now know those are 2 different things. But in one of those where he was like, "Yeah, no, we're sitting on the airstrip, and it was like wintertime in the base he was at in the northern hemisphere, and so we're flying into the southern hemisphere to a tropic-ish location." He was like, "Yeah, bro, the forecast was like 90, 101% humidity down in the AO, and like we were at like negative 30 in there. We were de-thawing the plane on the runway to take off for this, and all the guys are waiting to load up." And he was like, "Oh," he was like, "We didn't have any pistol ammo issued to us." He was like, "We had like a box of 10, 12, whatever the type was." He's like, "For the pilots." And so he's like, "We all got like a round or 2 of these." And so he's like, we stand each other. And so like some dude went to like Dick's Sporting Goods or whatever and bought a box of ammo. And they're like sitting there loading up with personal ammo. And they're like, "Yo, we're going to use this only enough." Yeah. And I was like, "Yo, what?" And he's like, "No kidding." Yeah. He's swearing an unborn child's life. Yeah. So it's funny, like, you would never imagine bringing your own ammo to war, like your own ammo, like that's like, oh, well, I always have plenty. Well, always have at least enough. Like, and it's funny you mentioned that he was a pilot. I have a teacher that told me a similar story of having to hop on a C-130 and go somewhere in the world. And he was part of the logistics crew. And so he was part of the next in line. Well, he was basically like part of the air crew, and so he was part of the delivery service essentially. Yeah. So he was delivering the combat capability. Mm-hmm. But even his flight, like they didn't, he was going to be dropped off along with this like load or whatever. But he didn't have a return home. He returned flight home. He was like asking his like scheduler or his like commander or whoever he was like responsible for that. And he's like, "Hey, so like so what am I coming at?" Yeah. Well, I mean, we'll see, man. See if he's still there. He's like, he's like, well, it's going to the armory, see what you get. Yeah. They even had a pistol. They denied, they did not have a pistol. Right. Even a pistol for this guy. Believe it. And so, the 90s were a different time in the military, and especially in the Air Force. I don't know if those same things existed, those same conditions existed during GWAT, but it was just like, yeah, I mean, you're not the. No, I think today, as we pointed out like earlier, like all sorts of things where it's like, you're not the main effort, so you gotta figure it out, man. Yeah. Dude, I remember being a kid, and I say kid, probably junior high-ish, and in an organization we were both in, the community service through, we're like, oh, we'll send care packages to troops, and we're like, okay. Well, then we're like, oh, well, and now looking back on this, I'm like, I wonder how they got this info. And like, they just call up the War Department. Like, yo, who are the boys? Put me on with the boys.
Yeah,
Like,
what do the boys
what
need?
do the boys need? They're pooping in party boxes and throwing the poop on the road again. And you're like, yeah. And so, like, we got these letters from soldiers back, or units, like, oh, we need these items. And it was like something you expect. Like, oh, we need toothbrushes, and we need pillows because we don't have, we're sleeping in our own party boxes that we got with our pocket knife. And, we want magazines. You know, I was like,
Yeah.
wait. They're like, yeah, good housekeeping. Good housekeeping. Sort of clothing catalog for women or men, I guess. And so it was like, okay. And they go, and then it was like items that you would not. They're like, we need AA batteries. So AA batteries, that'd be great. They're like AA batteries, like zip ties, like um, they wanted bicycle inner tubes, and they're like, yeah, because like our weapons, we need to put flashlights in our weapons, like on fours, and we don't have enough mounted bracket items because like Picatinny, like just invented the Picatinny rail or whatever, and like on the M4 systems, and so I was going also like have M16s, and then brackets like that, put flashlights in our weapons. So we want bicycle inner tubes because we cut those and we tie on lasers and flashlights to our weapon. Good God, what is it? And so I was like, yo, batteries. They wanted like, I think Chemlight's close there because they wanted other items that like you can get from your unit. But again, this would probably be circa 2004-ish probably, like, War Machine Days and stuff, totally that, fall 5-ish. They're like, yo, what do you need batteries? The Joe's need batteries? Like,
Well, and it's a similar story with Humvee. Before they got the up armored Humvees, like the news reports and news videos of like soldiers welding car doors onto their hoods of their Humvees and stuff like that.
dude, went to a high school with a guy in high school who was going to the local technical high school for the guys that are going to be in a life of waking up early and work really fast. And he was going to the mechanics, course or whatever at this high school. You go to high school half day, mechanics technical school half the day. He was like, this was not like senior year of high school. This was like sophomore, dare I say, freshman year of high school. And this guy is doing this technical high school half the day, and he's into welding, and he makes like custom sand. He makes like sand rails with his dad, or whatever, his uncle, which is like doing buddies, right? And he goes, yeah, I'm welding, and he's like, I plan on not even finish high school. I'm just going to get my welding degree, certificates, and I'm making good money. I'm like, you're working, and like, we definitely were not juniors or seniors. So it's like, nobody working yet. He goes, yeah, I'm a welder. And so like, as I talked to him through the course of the school year, and he was like, yeah, the company that I work at for cash under the table, because I'm 16. He goes, yeah, we just got a contract to weld armor plates into Humvees. Yeah, and this is like, this would have been like 2006-ish. I was like, what? Like, and I, said, I want to go army, military. And I was like, what? He's like, yeah, no, like, I'm like, when I finish school and I go to school and I go to my job and I'm welding armor steel onto Humvees because it wasn't even armor. It was armor. It was special armor. It was just steel. We're retrofitting Humvees with steel. Like, like the craziest shit that I can imagine. And, so yeah, it was just one of those funny things. But then flash forward, I get into units and they're like, yeah, we got batteries. There's some podcasts and they're like, no, I don't think so. I'm like, what's that box back there? And like, it's not, it's back. And they're like, I'm gonna walk in here, like, it's batteries. But they've been sitting there for like who knows how long, and they're all invaded, and batteries are crystalline. And so there's a problem with like battery management at the line units that, taxpayers might not know about, and the leaders, but like batteries are usually hard to get in a timely manner because you circuit back with buying sometimes and you ask your supplier for a million for the day of million for the field and you have 1,000 gigawatts of batteries. And so I was not surprised at all that we were called back on this. This guy's like, we need batteries, we need bullets too. I was like, what the other item was? I'm like, she was like, the poetry stuff to me, it was wild because like you don't just get continually issued. We talked about this a little bit with like the toothbrush and the plane. Like you don't get continually issued, especially when you're deployed in a combat zone, like hygiene typey items. Like you just gotta buy them from the BX trailer that's on the fob, or like get your spouse to DHL it to Afghanistan, and like that's how you get toothpaste and toothbrushes. Like and then you'll tell whatever graybeard's going to jump on the car. Be like, no, you just got to call the DLA guy and he'll box it to you. It'll take a month.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good question to ask, I guess, because so when for the last 20 years, when folks were deploying in and out of the GWAT AOR, so you get to the country, and then so for that kind of stuff, I would imagine that you're just responsible for your own stuff. So if you're located primarily in a large installation, you go outside the wire to a fob for like a month at a time or something, and come back to the installation and rotate out to the company. And so I'm setting up the assumptions that I have, and then so when you are back at the large installation, I suppose you're just you're stocking up or whatever on that rotation. Like maybe your rotations are larger or smaller, and whether your rotation to the top is 6 months or 12 months, right? I imagine that you're still rotating to larger installation, or at least getting deliveries of MREs and other items from the convoys that are going in and out of the area.
Yeah. Yeah, but even that, like, even back when you retrofit like a large fob, like a J badge, Lalabad, like these mega fob cities that but you're going and then going to the PX trailer to buy your hygiene items.
Yeah.
It's not like you go to your supply guy and you give me a toothbrush, use a toothpaste, and some deodorant. Yeah. It's like, no, I'm going and using my untaxed dollars and everything to go and buy items, and I'm at war for Uncle Sugar and the American people who don't see. So it is just one of those odd, and if you look back at, and I'm sure it's Hollywood, like you look back like a Band of Brothers, like, well, they would have it back then, they'd be like, yo, here's the shower stalls, here's a box of soap, here's some towels, but even that, like towels, like you buy your own towels when you're in war. And like whenever you go to a long event, or if you're like on no notice, where they say that you'll have like 90 days worth of whatever in your bag. So 90 days worth of your own toothpaste, your own shaving blades, your own Q-tips. Um, some people might call nature comforts, but some people might call sanitizing. So it's it's peculiar like that. And again, there is some sort of federal logistics like muscle you can flex, but it is, I'm sure not timely. I'm sure not always.
And also just like the debates, I'm sure that whatever baseline toothpaste and other hygiene items they would provide would be like a bare minimum trash. Like razor blades would be like the single blade, the single use. Don't use it a second time that same day. Kind of a blade, and all of that would be the cheapest, most inexpensive, built by the lowest bidder, kind of deal. So we would be complaining about that. Just
Yeah. And even when Joe's on the podcast, he might have mentioned it a little bit, but they couldn't get fresh fruit in Africa. And he was in 2019 into 2020. And they wouldn't get fresh fruit delivered because the planes could only come in so frequently. Yeah. And so they're like, oh, we didn't have room on this plane. Or like, oh, hey, we had to fill this plane with mail and, not so for the shipment. Where he's like, are you kidding me? Like, this is, we don't, and it reminds me of Space Force. Like, it costs $1 million. How many oranges do they need? And it's like fresh fruit.
Yeah, and then it's something like I've heard the stories about surf and turf Thursdays. They have giant Maine lobster tails alongside Nebraska steak, corn fat, American steak, and then cornbread and everything else. Um, in the middle of Afghanistan, thousands of miles away from the nearest water source. I like having sushi in the middle of Arizona. Fresh sushi, all that.
In lockstep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So
It's just odd. It is. And there's somewhat tied to it, like other topic we were talking about, which is like battle boards and like digital versus analog, command post and battle tracking. And because we were playing a board game, and you were like, oh, what would be neat is they just magnetize this board game. I was like, funny sugar about that. I tried to do it before at one point. I was like, we turned in this mega wing board that was made out of plywood and 2x4s, metal flashing background. We had put a paper map on there. We had heavy duty magnets, hang up some overlays, acetate to lay on it, and then hang up trackers and stuff on the side of the board with 11 sheet protectors to slide trackers in that we printed every day, twice a day. And I was like, yeah, magnetizing stuff, it quickly becomes a game against physics. The power of the magnet and the thickness of whatever you're trying to pin to it. There are some neat, like we talked about, there are some neat companies on other battle boards that make the soldier level and leader level, and that they buy. And some units can buy at times. They have extra squirrels sitting around from they don't have surplus of toilet paper. They don't have to buy more. Like units I've been in that don't have toilet paper. They're neat. I mean, and it does become like this, like how often are you updating things? How many layers do you need to be effective? But there are, and like it'd be interesting to see people throw in the comments like how your unit tracks at company level, battalion level, brigade level on the analog tracking as we kind of go into this, near peer threat with like, hey, you need to be up on digital, you got to be up on analog. Both should be relatively updated and be able to move easily because you got to jump your CPUs around. So, there isn't kind of an automatic position and it's later. But, yeah, it is. And like I said, we had a couple of, there must be like a local tailor / sew shop that we got to see what we call football. It's like everything important in the government, people like call football. It's like, oh, that's the nuclear launch codes. That's that's where the keys out of the car. And it's like it's like we would call it a football, and Lord knows why. And it would be like a big size of a poncho, and you'd have like in the middle a big uh, uh, overlay Velcro slots to put your big paper map in, and that wouldn't sit in there correctly because you can't really pin it to the back of this thing, and you have like trackers down the sides and on the bottom to track like logistics stuff, maintenance, and personnel things, ammo and vehicle status, and enemy temp stuff, over like signals and comms index, and there's not a standard issued one of those. Like I said, some of the training support offices on base can make you what they call a wingboard. Usually, make you a wingboard, and they do a lot of work. But it's like this, like made of OSB or like plywood with like 2x4 trimming frame, and it's a big bulky old girl. And you're like, yo, I can't move this thing in the one man lift, much less like jump it in minutes in my Humvee.
Yeah.
And so like we were going through talk about JPCP, Blue Force Tracker, date, and this year. And it's a really neat system that is helpful. And there's this whole like, oh, well, company CPs aren't authorized. The talk kit version of that, which would go on a desk when you plug it into a wall and it has a powering up and this stuff. So like we had configured our first soldier's truck with the back was it what we call Humvee, was the cargo Humvee with a big old tarp cover in the back. And we would pull it out of the front dashboard, buy an extended cable for like a monitor to be able to unbolt the monitor because it's like a ball and socket joint, like you'd be like a police car and you could see it from the side. You like unbolt this ball and socket joint. We made a table out of wood in the back of our truck with like a bench and like a table board and then like a board on the side wall that would have bolted to it. That we also had my comms guy make like speakers and microphone, hand mic ports, and the amp because you need an amp to run the radios, and you bolt all this together and then run it to the back of the truck. And we had had some non-degreed electrical engineer like figure out the wiring from the truck to the back so that it didn't always kill our power, and like we have to turn our truck on and let it charge and whatever and then go off like our other battery and we drive it in there. It's like the guys will get creative in doing that, but you don't get issued like a map tracking apparatus that is easy to use and or lightweight, and you can, if your training center makes them, get a battle wingboard, but again, it'd be like a wooden backboard, so you're trying to pin things on. You're trying to pin on things with a tack. You're pinning in the wood, which is not easy, and it's another one of those funny items that's like common. It's used every day in the field, and yet it's like this custom made. Some of the senior leaders went down to like Mike and Joe's surf shop, and they like bought this item and they put it to the unit or whatever. Or someone's wife like has a surgeon and that's also so it was and then it just like stays at that. And it's we'd gone to having it hung in the company hallway. And they're like, hey, we want to train on fight. I'm like, hey, I want to try to get closer to like task force or combat in the field. I want to be doing Garrison and like it or adjacent to it. So we have this football and we would put our long-range training calendar on there and a unit map, and then like our platoon's training for that week, and then like our personnel reports in there. So that way, if they're ready in the field, like let's pull down this football, let's pull out the Garrison stuff, and let's put it pillbox. That way, we at least also didn't like go to the field without it because it was like a thing we used other than Garrison. Where I'm like, hey, if I had my way, dude, I would literally wear either delete Garrison nonsense and or just wear. I would have like a tactical Thursday, and like you would just wear your tactical kit all day in your office, and like whatever your unit was doing that day, turn up like in the field, and for all echelons, so like every S2 and S6 guy up there that does the Lord's North work would just be sitting in his cubicle. And as he's processing SARS for some new guy in his unit, who's also from a different branch, who needs to get on the high side and the side, needs to fill out his forms, and he's like, he's got his combat glasses on, his helmet on, and we turn off the AC so it feels to me like services, and it's like, hey, okay, yeah, let me just get this seat with my big old kit on, and then like go down the hall and give it to my EA so he can process it and whatever. I get that, and so I was like, you know, you're not a crazy person. I was like, but like that's how we're expected to play in the field is in full kit. So like, why wouldn't we, especially office guys who do FTXs less frequently than the line companies? We should make them do that to be comfortable being uncomfortable. And you know, it's like I'm sure that the it's like replicating as much as you can about combat.
Well, and
situations.
and somebody a while ago had told me that, you know, with regards to uniform changes, the person made the comment. He was an intel officer who worked with flying units quite a bit. He made the comments that you know the reason why pilots are authorized, you know, all the Gucci gear, all the like cool ways to wear the uniform, like sleeves rolled and rolled, and like whatever, you know, is arguably they're probably dressed for service the most comfortably. And the reason that is the way that it is because the guy said, hey, like when they see something they don't like, they contact the AFI owner and they're like, hey man, request for change. You know, like this is bullshit. You know, blah blah blah, XYZ, and let me do this or just stop making me do that. You know, they push the change through and they get it done. So, but that's because they're constantly wearing constantly wearing their you know duty uniform, and whether they're in the cockpit or fucking working on Thursday doing the stuff work and doing the SAR at 2075, they're in their flight suit, which is what they wear to battle. And so, if it's uncomfortable, it's noticeable immediately. And so they request the changes. And so, to your point, I think that, you know, like you say, instead of getting used to being uncomfortable, it's like, no, getting used to using the shit you're supposed to be using in battle every day to the point where it's like, hey, request for change. You know, our RFC man, like, hey man, we ought to have an administrative or leadership a kit. You know, we ought to have these XYZ things that we all know we need, quote unquote, in the field, and you know, no one else knows, no one else realizes at a large scale. And that would make those issues much more apparent. Because even myself, like I tended to shop around those billboard types of places, looking for administrative stuff.
Correct.
I'm like, hey man, like how can I carry my fucking notebook and calendar easy? And you know, I had a staff officer notice my quote unquote, name air quotes, quote unquote kit one day. It's like, hey man, that's pretty slick, you know, fucking, you know, binder you got there. I'm like, what do you got, man? It's like, yeah. And so you know, I explained to him, just like you did with your web belts and your pockets and your ammo pouches. I explained to him in those same terms, like, yeah, man, look, after 15 years of running around, going to meetings and stuff, like, it's what I developed. And so it's like, if you know, there are like all that stuff we rattled off about the different note cards and different shifts and different rosters. It's like what it boils down to is like I gotta keep track of shit. And so it's like whether you're a squad leader or a company commander or a fucking battalion commander, if you're in the field, it's like hey, I gotta keep track of shit. And so it's like have a kit that is useful for people that have to keep track of shit. And like don't make them buy $75, you know, issue it to them. So,
And like, I don't remember from being kids, but like, we'd go to like Trapper Keeper. Right. Like, I was like, no, I need one of these. And camouflage pattern. Yeah. And a Trapper Keeper, which is like a Velcroed open binder, so that way it just not falling out. And then it has a 3-ring for 8.5 by 11 in there. And then it has like a little pencil pouchy thing in there. And I was like, yo, I need one of these, just an OCP color, or Oded green, or even fucking black. And so I was just on Amazon, I'm like, yo, binder, 3-ring binder, fat, big, to fit a dictionary in there. Like, and put all these specs in there as like my, official, unofficial, acquisitions request, specs, technique, whatever. And I was like, yo, I'm literally inventing a binder. I was like, I want a binder from when I was in 5th grade. And we also had a Star Wars one, like a thick blue, almost like denim blue, zipper with an Imperial thing on one side and a Rebel on the other side. And it was like, I want to zip it up, and then in there has a 3-ring, D-ring, solid locking. Yeah. You pry it open, not the bullshit where it only flips on one side. Opens up on one side of the top of the D-rings. And, it has like a cool pencil pouch in there, and it has some, I'll put a spiral on it. I was like, I want that. And then I will sew an old uniform. And we'll even have pouches on the outside. Because my jacket has pouches on the outside. I was like, I'm gonna pick up a pair of pants and sew a goddamn cargo pocket for my binder. I was like about to go there, and I was like, this is not. And I was like, in between units or something, like to do this. And I was like, my wife's gonna kill me if she sees me buying binders on Amazon. Like I was literally like, oh, let me call it Mead or 5-Star or Trapper Keepers or some business. And like, yo, give me the milk. Like, give me OD green. Yeah, give me the milk special. I'm like, issue it to me because then I'll be able to buy it from you directly. And so, but yeah, it's like those little funny items that like every leader has them that is like personally procured as a quote unquote like kind of creature comfort, but like everybody has them. Like it's just.
Well, and we were talking about that too, where it's like, talking about the Bell board, how they're kind of like the higher end version of that kind of a product. But there's really no like lower end. And like the lowest end would be just a generic black or generic like OCP or the BX that, kind of meets some of those requirements, but not all of them. So, it's, it's,
Even like map cases are not an issue either. So like you would expect soldiers
hold on. Because there's a map pouch, a map pocket in every single patrol cap.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that every single asshole wearing an OCP, wearing OCP uniform has a map pocket designed and installed specifically to carry maps in their cap.
Yeah.
And yet the map pouch.
Right. Because here's the funny part is like we don't go to the field in patrol caps. We wear helmets. And like any unit that goes to the field in patrol cap, it's short lived because the line in 05 from you will come down and fucking skull drag you across back to garrison. Be like, put your shit on. The only time you're allowed to wear patrol caps in the field is at certain schools like Ranger School or Sapper School, and during a super crawl, and this is only if your unit is kind of even reasonable, is in a crawl phase of a certain module. So if you're like, oh, hey, we're going to teach land nav. We're not going to test land nav today. We're going to teach land nav. So we're going to be comfy, cozy, and cute and camouflaged 4 C's of combat. And we're going to let them wear patrol caps this time. We're going to let them wear it this. But next time, pull back, which is like the most petrifying thing you can hear because you're like, and the guy's like, because why? Because fullback now is not comfy, cozy. And so you're like, face paint on my face, regardless of how hot it is, and it's going to sweat off my face. And so you'll be face painted up, you're going to have your helmet on, you're going to have your fucking IOTV, your body armor on. And so you're like, bro, so that patrol cap that may have like, there's so much so that there's guys that rip that out of their because they never use it and it makes it lighter because it's 3 layers. It's also so it traps. Yeah. And so they'll be like Rangers instructors.
Well, the original version of the Airman Battle uniform had a pocket on the inside the blouse. And so it was like the first version. I don't think it survived the second version because it was like everyone was tearing it out because of that exact reason. Like it added layers, added material, and also added a place where he could get tracked. So,
interesting.
Yeah, it's hilarious.
At least having blood jets or something.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah. It was like a whole big thing. So I was never on that version of it.
Yeah. And so like on the we call a flick, which is like a final load carrier, which is also somewhat somewhat contentious topic amongst tactical units, because like the flick is the rig kit that you'll wear that's not in armor. So it's like a harness that you'll put on, and it has all the molly on it, and you put your pouches on there. And there's two schools of thought. You either take all the pouches you would put on your flick and you put them directly on your body armor, or you leave all the pouches on your flick and you put your flick on over your body. Yeah. And the units that I see are somewhat unreasonable are the ones that don't allow flick use. Because again, to this point of the crawl phase, when you're doing crawl phase learning, which is whether it's marksmanship or whether it's land navigation or whatever field training task you're in training, reasonable units will say, hey, patrol cap and flick is lighter and it's a little bit more comfortable. And you're also not being, so it's simply light. And they do that in like Ranger School, for example. You don't wear body armor in Ranger School at all. You only ever wear your flick, you wear your patrol cap. For missions, when you go to attack an objective, you'll throw on your helmets, but your patrol and patrol cap, you patrol all the way to the last position, which becomes your ORP, objective rally point. You'll then throw on the rest of your kit. You'll throw on your helmet. You'll put on your MVGs, because then you might be on there at night and going into night, and then you'll go into battle for your final approach. And so, but you'll wear a patrol cap and you'll wear a flag. Ranger School and Cyber School, the two tactical, small unit tactical schools that want to make small tactical unit leaders, don't wear body armor, which I think is also a problem. Because then they get comfortable in the school house and they go to their unit and like, you'll always wear your body armor. Like, what are you doing? This cool guy school I went to. And you're like, don't care. Well, this is a cool guy school. But we expect you to have graduated that cool guy school, but we don't want you to train new people here like you got trained at that school. Which is also wild. It's just wild. It'd be like in football, only wearing your helmet and not the pads. And they'd be like, oh, well, because, the pads, it doesn't feel as cool when you're like, well, just wear your oversized jersey that would have pads in it. And so that's like what it's like. So wear a flick. And so, inside the flick because it's basically like just a big swath of fabric that has molly all over it, like a vest, and then you put your pouches on the outside. On the inside of that, there's a mesh pouch that's like 4 inches, maybe 5 inches tall on where your belly midsection would be, and that's like your map slot. And so you would like reach inside your flick to grab a map or items or paper, but it only has 2 like 1.5 inch Velcro tabs to keep these things closed. And so anything you have in there as you're moving around will just shimmy its way around the Velcro up and out, regardless of how the size of the item. Like a lot of people put protractors in there for your map, they'll come right out. And so your LTV doesn't have that. Your LTV doesn't have a built internal map sleeve, nothing. And yeah, there's no issued map cases. So like you expect guys to have paper maps in their non-waterproof paper maps in their cargo pocket or in their PC cap, but there's no issued map apparatus carrier for guys in the line. They'll sell them at the PX. I have one that I got from my father-in-law that he got back in the day, and it's a BBU one. And it's probably like, it folds Velcro along 3 edges in half, like a folder. And it's probably like, I don't know, 14 inches by like 14 inches. Actually a pretty neat piece of kit because it's like relatively waterproof. You got like a Velcro seam to put the map in, and then again, 3 edges Velcro to when you do the fold. So it's not like when you do the fold, you still see through like
because anything that has Velcro, that's like see-through plastic on the top, the Velcro only has one seam, like one side seam. Like you're not getting anything in there reasonably without getting it folded all the fuck.
Exactly. You like shove the corners, right?
Exactly.
You get a little ruler or pencil.
And it's only like so. It's thin. It's a whole lot of tin as a whole paper.
Yeah.
So it's like green. I mean that's like that Detroit steel you're talking about. That's
So the Velcro doesn't open the case. Well, the Velcro opens. So you have like a 14 by 14.
Mm-hmm.
And it has Velcro on 3 of the, I guess half of this square. Mm-hmm. So when you fold the map case, it's closed, and it's camouflage on the backside. Oh. So now it is a rectangle that's camouflage on one side and the other side. Like this nylon non-permeable waterproofing, like Gore-Tex, basically swath of thing. When you open it, to open one side, side of the square, if I will, it only has one Velcro opening to slide the map in and out. But even the fact that it Velcros to close this clamshell on 3 seams is helpful because you can't just like toilet paper roll it to where you can see through it like a, tube. But that is a neat piece of kit, and it has a grommet through one thing that's like sealed. That way you can put a rope through there, so you tie it to your kit, and you stuff it on the inside. Now, even if it falls through and tries to drop on you, it doesn't fall away for forever. You lost always. But like that, even that, the PX still make those to an extent, but they're smaller and they fold more than an. And so it'll be like a grid square, like a 9 grid square. They'll like fold, 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 fold. But it's like usually they're embedded in like a map kit, like a admin pouch, which are neat and better than nothing. But the whole point of the story is there's not an issued map carrying item, and you're expected to have a map on you because you don't. Um, yeah, and so that like in the maps are paper based, and luckily at least every army base has like a big, 28 by 36 inch map printout of the base. Yeah, no, you don't get something to carry it with. Especially from like Ziploc is the best way to get most of it. They're gonna, pull the map up and you put it in a Ziploc bag and you put it in your pocket. Yeah. Which is better than nothing, but that's definitely an issue. But it's not the best. So, yeah.
Well, then you have a Ziploc logo on it.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, exactly. Yeah, no point. That's why it's good in the paint. It's like you'll fold it, and like rookies will just take. This is most guys like we'll just take this map at the print shop, and like the height, you can call it tins, whatever the base installation training center is, and they'll hand it to you, and it's like a big, like I said, like 28 inch, like 36 inch map, and they just fold it in whatever the iron fold, machine assuming does. And it's folded to like usually a bottom square, like bottom left of the map, or whatever. Is the default fold. Right. Guys will just like animals keep that in their pocket that way. Oh yeah. And they'll like because they never use it because they're just relying on GPS to go. And then they'll like go pull it out and they gotta unfold this whole thing. Versus like good guys will take them out, unfold it all the way, and then fold it to the AO they need, and then shove it in the Ziploc with the not Ziploc logo side, the primary facing side. Yeah, and it's like all these little tricks of the trade. Follow for more. Put in the comments if you got your fieldcraft tools and tricks, SOPs, TTPs in there. Yeah, all the unclassified. Of course, we're gonna share with you. Yeah, super. So, but yeah, no, it's like, and that's like kind of a bushcrafty, untold, non-doctrinal, but sort of passed down generationally. Like, oh hey, you guys come here. This is what you do over here. First of all, get yourself a map. Get your map, and then put it in. Here's how you fold it. And in some tactical doctrine, they have like fold a map to use because there is an art and science to it. When you fold it up, you want to like outline your AO you think you'll be operating in, and all of this like perimeter or chaff is like you don't want to cut it off because it has budget. Kind of like, what's this fucking symbol? Yeah, fuck it to my arts and crafts pile at home. And so you're like, okay, I want this. So like, I like fold under, fold it, under, and then now I have my AO isolated what I want, and then it has instructions there. I'm like, oh, you'll fold it inward onto itself. So when you pull it out, you'll open to like that's in a book I read one time. And so it is neat because some of that is doctrinal, but some of it's just pure fieldcraft, like Sergeant Good Guy from Cool Unit. They're just like, tell me, drops in a fatty lipid dip, and he's like, do it this way, And he's like, okay, do this, like, put your place out, kind of get shot, and like, but yeah, it's like one of those funny, like, don't get issued talk to school, usually some of these quote unquote creature comfort babies are operationally significant in the sense of,
Well, and then it's so funny too because, for example, if that information is not written down somewhere, people will complain that's not written down. But then like someone comes out of the woodwork and it's like, oh yeah, no, it's in, whatever. Yeah, and so like, but then also sometimes things get, sometimes you realize that some things are not written down. If they write them down and publish them in guidance, then there's a single announcement in 1995 or 2017 that says, hey, Army Hall, hey, DoD Hall, email, reply back all, it's email anymore. But hey, Army Hall, hey, Army Hall, this information is in this location, so hey, enjoy it. And that's the only thing I ever hear about it ever. and publisher that, oh, that's sufficient.
Right.
Why do I need another announcement?
Yeah. Right.
Why do I need to have a social media presence that allows people to know this information is available?
Yeah.
So it's like that's the struggle.
Yeah.
Is that for all those great things that get captured,
Yeah.
even when, so it's like the biggest thing in lessons learned of like exercise, or anything else. It's, lessons observed, whatever, lessons learned. It's like, well, even when they are documented, it's like, because I've seen this happen time and time again. You relearn the same lesson, and it frustrates me because it's like, hey guys, like, shouldn't the first thing we do in the planning conference for the next one is like review lessons learned from the last time you did this? Yeah. Not only that, it's like, hey, arguably the participants of this next year's version of this thing, this is somehow involved in their mission statement. Whether it's their daily mission, or whether it's like an occasional thing they get called up on to do. But it's like, how is this not trained or educated or communicated more than just the like, hey, this thing ended and here's an email that no one's going to read. Here you go. And it's like, why isn't this more of a like, again, like long-term conversation versus just like, oh, hey, AAR is done, trade if you want to, which means never at all. So it's like, everyone should walk into it. It doesn't matter if it's your first time doing that thing, or if it's the 20th time doing that thing. Everyone ought to be reading those previous lessons. So, it's frustrating, man. It doesn't happen. You have a hard enough time getting people to read anything. They show up regardless of exactly. Like regardless of how early or late they got picked to do the exercise organ. It's like they just show up like John Lane and they're like, okay, hey, smoking a cigar and like, drinking the whiskey. Hey, so I'm here now. How are we gonna do this thing? And I was like, well, did you read the thing? No, I didn't do that bullshit. Never heard of it. So it's like,
shoot a stretch before gym time as well.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, man. There was something I was thinking about in the lessons. I was even literally on my professional forum on like teams. We've got a team built for this branch, for my branch, and they're like, hey, and there's these do-gooders on there that post, hey, updates to publications. And they're like, hey, there's an LPD coming up on lessons learned from this exercise relative to your brain. And I was like, oh, that's cool. And I was like, about to read it. And then I got busy at work. And I was like, I need work today. Because this is quote unquote personal professional development and not really my current jobs, like also for my future job. I was like, all right, well, whatever. I was like, I'll get back to this knowing that like I might never get back to that. And being like, oh, I might be in that position in 2 years from now, but I don't have the time right now. Without time now, but
I try to stay at least aware of those kinds of things that come out, because it's because and then because I've kind of been separated from my core career field for such a long time. When I do run into people from my career field, and I'm like, oh hey, like I am trying to chat up about the latest thing, and they're like, no, what are you talking about? No, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm staring, and I'm just, well, what I'm staring at, I'm like, yeah, but like, headquarters, like, it's just the headquarters, or this headquarters. I was like, why? Like, what do you mean? Like, you don't know anything about this. It's like, what the fuck? Like, and certain, I'm sure career fields, depending which career field it is, which community it is, has an easier or harder time keeping tabs on its members. But I think for its part, Defense Acquisition University has made it easier to earn continuous learning points, CLPs, from various events, because you're supposed to be earning, like, it used to be 80 CLPs a year. And traditionally, you would get those through acquisition training, which would be like college credits, right? So it's like, hey, this course is like 3 CLPs. This course is like 10 CLPs. But they've made it. They published all this guidance on like, hey, if you attend a lecture on a topic like this, then you can earn 2 CLPs. So if watch a YouTube video about XYZ, the CLP. I forget the exact breakdown, and I think that multimedia is a part of it. I just don't remember exactly how. Because again, I haven't had to worry about earning CLPs just for a long time. But I do know that from these acquisition forums that I'm a part of, you can see people ask me questions like, hey, can I log this? And they're helpful responses back. And there's like some website that you go to like request those types of standard CLPs. So, and being, for the folks in the DC area, there's always some symposium going on that you can be earning stuff at, earning CLPs at. There's always, the folks at those big centers, in Air Force Material Command and Army Material Command, there's always some, conference to attend, some defense conference to attend. I usually have universities in those towns, so there's always like, somebody speaking at the university, some, especially in DC, all sorts of like government leadership, Condoleezza Rice is speaking out the whatever. So they try to stay relevant at the times. David DAU's also stepped up their social media game in the last like 5 years, to the point where I would argue really pretty good for government operation. They're they're on top of like publishing, discussing the newest. Um, and they used to not be the case. They used to be one of those guys that's like, come to the training, like go to the website or whatever. Oh yeah, they've gotten a lot better. Interesting. It's about Forrest, Master Black's Um, bullets. Fire on bullets. Yeah. I hope they. They're kind of amazing in the country. Bullets. Yeah. Well, and speaking of which, I'd be curious to know these like lessons out of you. Like, I remember when I first kicked off, all these like pleas, like, oh, send my son, these things, he's asking for these things on the front lines. Send these care packages. They need batteries. They need this and that. Because I'm sure that would be a real, and even the open source, like social media posting, I'm sure would be a good source of information to understand, like, hey, in D plus 10, D plus 30, D plus 120, what were those items that were safe from the field? What couldn't they get their hands on? Could they get their hands on batteries, but just not AAA batteries? Could they get their hands on like all sorts of, like, were they looking for all batteries? Like, getting nut cases, right? Like, bust them down Costco for blood bag displays. Were they making do with packaging tape, clear packaging tape, and taping their boots to their face and not to the back? Getting tangled up in fucking,
Do we need 2-quart canteens?
Those 2 quart canteens.
Yeah.
Yeah. I, yeah.
There was an interesting, like, and I don't know if anybody's run this metrics, I'm looking at you, Amazon, but like, post Russia invading Ukraine, let me preface, pre that invasion, there was not a lot of, OCP items you could get on Amazon. Like, there'd be kind of your basics, like some gloves, like, maybe like a book cover for a notebook, some random, some smaller items like a Met but then like since then there's been a lot. Like if you go on Amazon and put OCP whatever, it's like, oh dude, you want tennis shoes? Do you want a water bottle cover? Do you want this pouch, that pouch? This is a pouch. So it's like been a big spike in this like mini, if you will, defense industrial base on Amazon alone. I'm assuming because of Ukraine demand and or whatever. And most of this is obviously foreign made, China kind of thing. And it's but like whether it's hand warmers or like baseball caps or beanie caps or things like that. There's been a big spike of OCP color items that were not on there circa 2019, 2020. And I'm like, yo, this is good. And to the width of it. So before it'd be like, oh, you can go and get like proper, we'll make boonie caps. It'd be like, oh, some somewhat defense kind of, contractor, like known commercial knockoff, commercial item of a knockoff of a government item. So like, like proper zone example, like, they'll be like, oh, they have boonie caps, but now it's like, oh no, Xi Jinping's boonie caps, and like and there's like 15 vendors for just boonie caps, like different sort of models they show, like items on types of boonie caps, but like before it was like, no, you could get like the one boonie cap, and it's definitely some dude selling government surplus from a pawn shop, or like the proper one, like that was it. And now it's like, oh no, yeah, like, Huawei, China.com, like all these, made overseas, slavelabor.com, it's like have booty caps. So it's like both the width and depth of OCP items has gone up to 100-fold, and like tactical gloves. Like you go in tactical OCP gloves, like you can kind of million vendors in those. Versus before it was basically just like mechanics wear and like one Chinese company. Like, and now it's like 100, which has been a neat thing because every now and then I'm really looking for a binder that doesn't exist. Yeah, and it's got like a ton of OCP stuff now, to include kind of OT, whatever, like also like practical. And then I sit there and I'm like, oh, I need a pair of gloves. And I'm like, but it's gonna fit my hands because NBA player hands whenever we do it all. And so, but yeah, that's been a unique thing to watch since this invasion.
Well, and I think the Navy has done an interesting thing, especially with their, well, maybe exclusively with their blouse, right? Their fleece, for their battle uniform. They, I believe they're the only service authorized to wear black. Um, their fleece is black. The Army and the Air Force and Space Force are all brown.
Yeah.
Same garbage brown that most of the stuff is.
Right.
And the reason it's interesting is because, there ought to be more items like that, where it's like, hey, black gloves, right? I had a mentor early on that said, hey, when new uniforms come out, it's like, only ever get black. You only ever buy black. You only ever buy black gloves. Right. Black will always be authorized for those items. Right. And that's held true. I would think it's like, the beanie. Yeah. Right. It's like, why would that ever be authorized in anything but black? Yeah. Right. Or at least have black, show. Same thing with the gloves and everything else. Yeah. So for the folks that do buy those OCP color, those camouflage colored ones, yeah, cool. There's probably, a good reason why they're doing that. But, all going back to the conversation about what's authorized for wear as well as for purchase, yeah, man, black ought to be an option every single time.
Yeah.
Right. You shouldn't need to have to buy the next, thing. So,
Yeah.
well, I think, we're getting up there.
Yeah. It's 3 o'clock in the morning local time.
Yeah.
Yeah. See you time.
Thanks. Like I said, we'll chat with you in person. So never had about that since our episode.
As the listeners can see, we're in the same foxhole.
Yeah.
Bunker.
Yeah.
Weapon,
Hybrid towers.
Yeah. Machine guns.
Yeah. Right. So, yeah, man, I'm looking forward to the next one.
Yeah.
Great, so far. Looking forward to those comments, looking forward to the sponsors.
Yeah.
Right. So getting that,
monetization.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Love merch. Exactly. So we'll get that merch store set up where we'll sell, these billboards, all these tools. Yeah. To be successful. Yeah, exactly.
Regardless of branch.
Black lights.
Office environment.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you're battling in the boardroom or the battlefield, to be successful. Right. Yeah. So thanks for listening. I'll catch you later.
Like and subscribe, share with your friends. Yeah, and I'll be you're doing it. We will take money for you to fly us out to your unit to do leadership talks and consulting, whatever that means. Yeah. Follow, like, subscribe, hit us in the comments. Send us your ideas.
Yeah. All right. Thanks a lot. I love you, bud. Love you too. Bye.